What's going on, guys, and good evening. It is 3:40 a.m. It is turtle time. I just got off work. We have like 22 days until drag week, and I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but we have a very large list of things that I need to take care of within the next 2 weeks. One of which being pulling the engine out and actually having the bearings changed. We'll get into that. So right now, my plan, my buddy Jace owns a shop called Miatas and More. He's very good with Miata maintenance and repairs and whatnot. And one of the things that he's really good at is wheel bearing stuff. And when we were up in Miatas at the Gap, you know, when I broke my lower ball joint, it kind of dawned on me. In about 2012, I went through, changed all my bushings to polyurethane. I changed the tie rods, I changed the ball joints. Well, from 2012 to now, I maybe put 10,000 miles on the car, and that's the honest truth. So if I had one ball joint fail, part of me thinks that I have other things going out at the same time. So I definitely want to get some new, I'm gonna go through the whole entire car. But it occurred to me that I have never changed my front wheel bearings since I've owned this car. Now they don't have any play whatsoever. You can rock the wheel, you can try moving the wheel, it does not move. There's nothing wrong with it. And obviously with the rears, this car makes 1,000 horsepower. I beat up on the rear end a lot. Also, Texas 2K, I broke the axle on the driver's side. When we were at my alignment shop at Phillips, this would have been right before a streetcar takeover Charlotte. We had the car up on the alignment rack, got it aligned, and Lewis pointed out that my driver's side axle wasn't fully seated. So we pulled the wheel off, we tried tightening the axle won't tighten anymore. And now it's occurring to me that it probably got damaged when I broke my axle at Texas 2K, and I just never paid no mind to it. I slid the new axle in, tightened the nut up, and I'm good to go. So if I actually crawl into the car right now, you can actually see that the axle's not fully seated. And also, like, if I had the car started and running right now and I let the tire spin in the rear wheel actually has a wobble. So yeah, that's kind of alarming. But anyway, so I'm actually going to be pulling off all 4 spindles, and Jace will be doing the wheel bearings, changing them over. We're doing new front hubs and wheel bearings in the front, and then the rear will just be bearings. So that way, peace of mind is good to go. So I'm actually going to be pulling off the fronts right now. Then I'm gonna go to sleep. Excuse me. I'm gonna go to sleep. I'll wake up. I'm gonna do the rears. So I guess, yeah, get to wrenching. Alrighty, so this is the passenger side, and I mean, like, my inner tie rod is very firm. My outer tie rod, it's not really feeling any weird. It feels pretty firm. This lower ball joint actually feels pretty smooth as well, but that's getting replaced anyway because I already have the part. I have a good feeling I'm still just gonna do outer tie rods as well. I mean, the boot's kind of cracked and whatnot, and honestly, I mean, that's the only thing up here that's not, you know, aged. I've got my V8 Roadster's upper ball joints right there, which I guess I forgot to grease them when I got them, so that's not good. I gotta grease them. But yeah, everything else is apart. So I got my two front spindle assemblies off, and honestly, that went a lot quicker than expected. So might as well do the rears. Well, after being home for an hour, all 4 of the spindles are off. I definitely noticed that driver's side rear, it definitely has play in it. So Yep, hopefully the axle will be fully seated. I did just take a look at everything else, like the axles, the brake pads, everything. Everything around the car seems great. So I definitely got to replace that inner tie rod. I'm going to leave the other inner tie rod, but I am going to replace both outer tie rods. And then I also do need to change that ball joint. So I'll have a spare inner tie rod. I'll have a spare lower ball joint. I'm going to end up buying pretty much one spare of each. So I'm going to buy a spare upper from V8R, and then I am going to buy one spare outer tie rod. But everything looks good. The axles look like they're in fantastic shape. I don't see any twisting, nothing like that. They're the beefy things. To be honest, when I just took them off, pulled them out of the diff, I forgot how heavy they were. I wouldn't be surprised if each axle was about 25 pounds. I mean, or heavier, I don't know. It's hard to kind of assume the weight of something that's that awkward to pick up. But either way, so I got everything pulled apart, exactly what I wanted to do tonight. On my way to work tomorrow, I will be stopping and dropping them off to Jace. So I'm gonna continue the video then. Well, it has dawned to me that I haven't recorded anything on YouTube. So last time I saw y'all, I brought the wheel bearings and hubs to Jace. But whenever he was whenever I dropped everything off at his shop, he wasn't there at work. Unfortunately, he's been hurt. He's had a hurt back lately. So he's been kind of in and out the shop. So I dropped everything off, just left it on his toolbox. And then from my understanding, he already pressed my studs into the new hubs. He disassembled everything, and what he does is he actually polishes up the race bearings, removes all the grease that they come with, and repacks it with good redline grease. And last time I talked to him, he was actually out of the grease. He had to get some, and then he was going to reassemble everything, press everything on the car. So right now it is currently Friday night, midnight. And as you see, the car's been up on jack stands. Like I said, he's got all the hubs and everything. I drained the oil out of the rear end and the trans, and the engine oil is being drained right now. The axles, everything looks great, which I'm very fortunate for. I did actually just get confirmation from Drive Shaft Shop. My spare axle will be ready soon, and hopefully, here next week. So that's good news. It's always good to have a spare of everything, especially an axle where there's only one other car in the world that has these. So it's kind of hard to get the fitment that I have. So the gear oil came out great, not a single bit of shavings anywhere. That's good. I actually did just drain all the fuel out of the tank. So I will be pulling the fuel tank and be pulling the water cooler tank, because the water cooler tank, we're going to have Brian spray it with lizard skin, which is an insulator. He had it done on his Camaro. We can ice his Camaro down at night and come out in the morning and it's still completely iced. Like, it works really good as an insulator. So because I don't turn my intercooler pump on the street during drag week, we can actually use that as a cooler. Or also on the way to the tracks in the morning, we can ice the car then, and it should be good to at least make one, like it'll be a good chest to store ice, before we get to the track. So that's good on its part. So I've actually started the process, pulled the table out. I started stripping some stuff out. I am getting this and this powder coated wrinkle black. This was powder coated at one point, then I spray painted it, and I don't like how it looks. So since I'm keeping it, it's getting powder coated. And then also I'm going to take off the Y pipe that goes from each header to the turbo that Mikey just adjusted a few weeks back, and I'm going to have that ceramic coated. That way it helps with heat management. So I'm in the process now. I'm probably not going to do too much tonight to start pulling it apart, but tomorrow the plan is to have the entire drivetrain out, trans, engine, put the engine on the stand and completely strip it down. That way we are ready to take it to the machine shop next week, have it measured, and as long as Jeff is good with all my clearances, I'm gonna slap a new set of bearings in and call it good to go, and then we'll have it back together hopefully next weekend. So that is kind of the deal going on there. I did want to just kind of include this clip. I didn't want to forget about y'all. We are coming up on the time where this thing needs to be done. So the quicker I can knock out my to-do list, the better off we will be. So on top of getting this situated, I still got to work on the trailer a little bit. And I still got to work on building my spare parts up. So I'm actually a really big fan of these style containers. I got them off Amazon, but they actually interlock to each other. So you can stack as many high as you want. And I'm basically building one right now that's got all my sensors in it. So TPS, water temp, air temp, pressures, also putting AA, AAA batteries, like anything I might need that's small that I can seal up in a bin like that. That's what I've been doing. So I actually just got a spare U-joint bearing assembly for the drive shaft, and a couple extra straps. So I'm gonna put that into the bins as well, and just, you know, build it up from there. So a lot of the stuff I definitely have, like we've always had to the track. Like this is the cart that I take to the racetrack with me. I mean, as you can see, I always have spare coil packs, I have spare plug wires, always have spare spark plugs, but we're not going to be able to bring this big tool cart, so I have to consolidate it into something a little bit smaller, which is my plan. So I'm probably going to pull the coil packs off, and honestly kind of call it for the night. It's late and I just want to shower and go inside. But tomorrow I want to get a good start on this, and this will be completely bare by tomorrow afternoon or evening. I really don't, I'm not going to rush it, but honestly, with how minimal this car is, it shouldn't take too long. So anyway, I will catch up with you guys tomorrow. Lots of progress has been made. You can see the front's all open. I still love that we made that little tubular support bumper. I love that. So you can literally just walk in the front of the engine bay. Everything is disconnected off the engine. I disconnected the converter from the flex plate, pulled the drive shaft, unbolted the tranny mount. So realistically, the only thing left to do is to take off the 4 bolts for the motor plate. Well, actually first we'd have to drop the subframe. So the 6 bolts for the subframe, drop that down, and then 4 bolts for the motor plate, and then everything will slide right out the front. So you can see here, we definitely have a pile. So this is pretty much the recipe to make an 820 Miata. A lot of stuff, lots of stuff. But I mean, this is ultimately what it takes. Now, like I said before, while this stuff is out and apart, those 2 cans right there will be taking a powder coat, and then the whole Y pipe will be taking. On the fence about getting the turbo housing redone. I'm just not very thrilled with how the rust is starting to already come through. I feel like the coating's either failed or, I mean, I don't know. So I'm gonna talk to Ivan and see what he wants to do with that. But yeah, so pretty ready to go. My buddy Austin, he's been in plenty of videos before, a good friend of mine. He said he'd be able to come over and give me a hand real quick. I've done this before, I can do it alone, but it's always nice to have somebody around, just in case. So I'm currently moving all my mess out of the way, so it's more in the way of something else later. That way we can get the engine hoist in here and then get ready to pull this screw out, and then I'll probably end up separating the trans and the engine. When I was draining the transmission, the fluid came out beautiful. It was nice and red, very clear. I didn't see anything in it. But the drain plug, it's a very strong magnet. It had some particles on it. I texted my tranny guy and he said it's fine. It's just normal wear and tear because the clutches are metallic. So that's good there. While the tranny is out, Brian's gonna swing by and show me how to properly adjust the band. It's one of those things, I can look it up and do it. He's done this a billion times, so it's just peace of mind for me. And then, yeah, the plan is to go to the machine shop on Thursday, and then that's when Jeff will be checking for, you know, the crank journals to make sure they're good. The block, we're gonna make sure all the main, the main bores are completely round. He's gonna mic everything, and as long as everything checks out, probably give a quick polish on the crank, and then put the bearings, or at least get the bearings we need. And then hopefully this coming weekend, or that following weekend, whenever Miggy has a chance, we're gonna slap the bearings in the motor, reassemble the bottom end, and then I'll be dressing the motor back up and hopefully have it in the car again next weekend. So that is the plan. It's a lot to do in a little time, but it's no worries. It's not that I haven't done this amount of work in a short period of time. As of now, I believe there's 19 days. I'm gonna check my phone. I have a timer on the big main screen on my phone right now. So 19 days until drag week. I mean, it is pretty stressful. I'm not even gonna lie. It's pretty stressful. We still have to finish the car. And if I can get everything back in the car how I want, like I said, those pieces will be coated. That's gonna happen. But there is a couple more things I'd like to do if time allows. Like I said, I do want to insulate the water tank. I actually want to change my front master cylinder, or my brake master cylinder, to a smaller diameter. That way it's a little bit easier to push down the pedal for me. Right now it's too rough. I have a 1-inch master, and that was good when I had the big brakes up front, the 6 pistons. Once I downsized to the 4 pistons, it's just too hard. It's annoying. At speed, it's fine. But like when you're slow traveling, like in traffic and whatnot, you got to push the pedal down pretty damn hard for it to stop. So anyway, yeah, you can kind of see the drive shaft just chilling under there. But yeah, once Austin gets here, we are going to go ahead and pull this unit out, and then I'll see you then. All right, she's out. Tranny and converter don't even need to be touched or stand there. Austin, thank you.
You're welcome, bud.
He came and helped. We got this thing up on the stand. So now I have to basically strip this thing down, pull the heads off, oil pan, everything. Because if I bring it to Jeff as stripped down as possible, it makes our job a little bit easier come time to start measuring everything for the bearings. And I have a freaking mess. So I definitely need to clean this. But I put the aluminum block on the floor, and honestly it could just stay there for a while. Have no use to touch it. But this is a old trusty girl. 2 times gone 820s. I don't even know how many times it's been 830s now. And it's a proven setup. So as far as transmission goes, I'm taking off the second dump. I don't even use it. So I'm capping off where the 2 lines went for that dump. The external dump I'm still gonna be using. Converter's not gonna get touched, and transmission, we don't need to touch it. We just gotta put it with fluid. That piece of crap B&M flywheel is finally off. So when this car goes back together, it's getting the new TCI, and we're gonna hope it doesn't sound like an absolute piece of garbage when it starts. Because that's the one thing I've always hated about this car, is it's got the worst starter grind, and I could tell that flex plate's warped just because how it sounds when it rotates. So hopefully going to a better quality flywheel or flex plate will help. But anyway, that's it for me. I'm absolutely tired. I've been working on this all day, but got a lot of good progress. Now that the subframe's out and everything, I'm actually going to take it out front. I'll power wash it this week. I can put on the new inner and outer tie rods, and then once I get my knuckles back from Jace, I can finish assembling all that, especially with the rear. I can put the rear back together. We got a lot of stuff to do. We got a little bit of time to do it, so we got to make it happen. So anyway, thanks for watching today's video. Thanks, Austin.
You're welcome, bud.
And we'll see you in the next one.